The South Korean Defense Ministry says it's planning for the worst-case scenario. Well, for a closer look, we're joined by former U.S. Ambassador to South Korea, Christopher Hill. He's the author of Outpost, Life on the Front Lines of American Diplomacy. Good to have you with us once again. Let me ask you, is this something you heard about when you were serving in Seoul?
No, it is not. On the other hand, it's not terribly surprising that a military, namely the Republic of Korea military, would be prepared with a lot of different sets of plans in the event they're asked by political authorities to carry them out. So I don't think it's particularly surprising, but no, this is a new one on me, and especially the idea that they actually went public with this.
Yeah, well, why do you think they did?
Well, I think, the reservoir of any kind of goodwill toward North Korea, of any sense that, gee, maybe we can work this out with negotiations, it's pretty dry right now. I mean, the North Koreans show no interest in what anyone else thinks. They're moving ahead with these tests. The South Koreans have expected perhaps a sixth test, which maybe more importantly would be a third test in 2016. So the North Koreans are going very fast. And I think the South Koreans need to show their people that they have various plans to deal with this. And certainly one of them would be, I guess, a decapitation plan against the North Korean leadership.
Well, I have two questions I'm going to ask you at the same time. Is it a good idea to make something like this public as a plan? And if it came to it, would it be a good idea or a disastrously bad idea to actually do it?
Well, first of all, what they're talking about is a threat of nuclear attack. And I think at that point, just about anything goes. Whether it's a good idea right now to make it public, I'm not going to second guess them. I think they probably thought it through and probably knew what they're doing in doing so. So I'm not going to second guess the South Koreans on how they explain things to their National Assembly.
Fair enough. But you passed over the first part of that kind of quickly. I mean, the idea that you would preemptively assassinate or if not just the leader, then several leaders of the North Korean government and military because you expect a nuclear attack. Wouldn't it be a self-fulfilling prophecy? You'd set off the war you were trying to avoid.
Well, I think it's very much scenario dependent, but I must say the North Korean nuclear program is not designed, as many people allege, that it's some kind of defensive thing, that they need it to, make themselves better, feel better. I mean, what is very clear about the North Korean North Korean nuclear program, it's very much of a weapons program, and they're very much looking at offensive systems. So I think the concern is, and certainly my concern is, if they get to the point where they have a deliverable weapon, I mean, we can expect to hear threats against their neighbors. And so I think the South Koreans have to respond in some way to their people. One response is to say we're under the American nuclear umbrella. The Americans would really let them have it if they ever did this. But I think another response is to say, yeah, we've got a bunch of different plans that we would use if we think this is what's happening to us.
Are they running out of alternatives? Because it would seem that with every passing year, there's more fear and frustration and some effort to try and find new alternatives. But as you mentioned, Pyongyang's nuclear program keeps going forward.
It keeps going forward. I mean, 2 tests this year is unprecedented, and they don't care what the UN Security Council thinks. They don't seem to care about sanctions. They don't care about China. I mean, that's been the big wild card with this Kim Jong Un. He just doesn't care at all. The Chinese have never invited him. He doesn't seem to care. So I think we have a real rogue state at this point on a rogue program, which I personally feel is extremely dangerous. I do not buy into the idea this is some kind of elaborate defense they have to protect themselves if someone else attacks them.